Hello everyone, welcome to a short video of me showing you some of the custom changes and fixes that I've made to my Oakfield Farm and the changes that I've made to improve the look of the FS19 base game graphics. By editing some of the Seasons 19 code, I think I've been able to create a much more realistic, dynamic, and immersive atmosphere when playing on any map, not just on Oakfield. So please stick around till the end of the video where I'll show you some examples and comparisons of the new, more immersive visuals that I've come up with. But first, the changes I made to my Oakfield Farm, starting with the small one, moving the spawn point to a convenient place that puts me right in front of my workhorse tractors when I load into the map. Since my farming is centered around the animals, and I have over 900 of them, most of the changes I've made revolve around them. Starting with the sheep, I actually removed the 2 new pastures in fields 6 and 7, since I always feed my sheep hay and don't use the new grazing feature. I changed the feed texture to hay in their feed trough, and they spill hay now as well. I repositioned the feed trough so it's next to the nav mesh in case giants ever fix the animal places bug and the animals actually start using the troughs again like they did in 17. I've also moved the wool spawn point because the pallets were always in the way when driving back to my chemical store, and I've increased the capacity to 10 pallets, which saves me a lot of time. For the cows, I completely gutted and remodeled the cow barn, making it more useful as my main bale store and feed processing area. I updated the cows' feed texture to show total mixed ration instead of grass, and they spill TMR too instead of silage, since I only ever feed them TMR. The other side of the barn serves as my main bale store for the farm with a capacity of over 600 bales and plenty of room to prepare food for the animals. At the horses, I increased the area of the nav mesh so the horses can now roam freely anywhere inside the fenced pasture, instead of being limited to the small area between the troughs like in the base map. I fixed the issue where horses would not return to the stable after being ridden and then dismounted in the paddock area, and I expanded the rideable delivery area to the full size of the pasture. I changed their feed texture to hay instead of grass. I built a small bale shed, and I installed some lighting for the area as well. Back at the main yard, I built covered enclosures around both silage pits, mainly to add for more realism when it snows, and they both have interior lighting as well. I've installed street lamps at most of the intersections around the map to break up the darkness, and it also helps a lot with finding my turns at night. I've added some lighting to Oak Glen Farm that comes in handy when tending to the pigs in the early mornings or at night, especially in the winter when the days are so short. Same for the main farm. I play on 6-day seasons at 15 times speed, so I end up working into the night pretty often. And with seasons, it's way too dark to see. I got sick of running around switching the lights on and off all the time in the base map, so adding some lighting really made a difference to my gameplay. The back access road also got a few new lights to make it a bit better at night. Moving on to some snow issues, I fixed areas around the map where the snow wasn't accumulating properly due to placeable issues, like near the storage silo, and also fixed the areas in front of and behind the silage pits. I also fixed a similar issue near the silo at Oak Glen Farm, and I added a mask to the pig shelters which were filling with snow on the base map. But by far, the biggest change I've made to Oakfield took me over 40 hours to complete, which was to define the field dimensions for every field and enable contracts on them. This makes it possible for the NPC farmers to work the fields so that they'll cycle through all of the planting, growth, and harvest stages throughout the year. And now I have contracts available for every field on the map as well. But the main reason for doing this was to add immersion when playing Oakfield with seasons. Oakfield's great when playing the vanilla game, but with seasons you end up with a ton of fields that are forever stuck in a fallow, withered, or harvested state unless you buy the fields and then work them yourself. Now when I play, I always have an evolving landscape of different crops and fields that are in the proper growth state for each season during the year. As you can see, it makes Oakfield look like a completely different map. Now as far as FS19 goes, I think everyone has been a bit disappointed with the overall visual appearance of the game. Sure, there's shaders now, and the textures, lighting, dynamic clouds, and weather have been a big improvement, but the overall look, feel, and immersiveness just isn't there. The colors are oversaturated, the contrast is too high, there's almost no dynamic range with the weather, and it almost feels like you're playing in a vacuum with no air around you. You can see a million miles in every direction regardless if it's sunny, storming, or snowing, and you have that awful depth of field that makes everything look even more generic and plasticky. When Seasons came out, it added so many great, realistic features it completely transformed the gameplay. But I hope that Seasons would have transformed not only the gameplay, but the visuals of the game as well. But unfortunately that didn't happen. So I started digging through the Seasons code, searching for a way to make FS19 look a bit more realistic, more dynamic, and more immersive. I ended up adding about 30 lines of code to the Seasons scripts and came up with what I think makes the game look much better. So here's a sample and comparison between the base game and my custom Seasons version so you can see how it looks. First, we're looking at the base game graphics in a scenario that I set up where the weather goes from sunny to cloudy to rain to a thunderstorm, then back to sunny, then snow, and back to sunny again. With the default settings, you can see how there is no natural depth of field, no feeling of distance, the air seems non-existent, and the transition from the ground to the sky is harsh. The colors are cartoony and bright. As the clouds move in, you have very little change to the scene other than the clouds themselves, which feel like a video projected above the ground. When it starts to rain, again we see very little change in the atmosphere of the scene, other than maybe a slight improvement to the colors. When the rain intensifies into a thunderstorm, again, nothing visual is changing. There's louder rain and thunder now, but it just seems overlaid on the screen instead of being part of the environment. Going back to sunny skies, and we return to a stark, cartoonish image. Snow also has no effect to the feeling of the scene, Of course, this doesn't look right being in June, but you get the idea. Then we're back to sunny skies and back to boring. Okay, so now we'll look at my edited version of seasons using the same view and same scenario of weather events. From sun to clouds, to rain, to thunderstorm, to sun, to snow, and back to sun. Right away, you should notice the colors are softer, more balanced, and even-toned. There's a slight haze in the air, adding a natural depth of field and feeling of distance. The contrast from the ground to the sky isn't as harsh. As the clouds move in, you'll see an increase in the haziness, providing an even more realistic transition on the horizon. When the rain starts, visibility begins to drop. Colors begin to become more muted, and now the rain and cloud animations seem to blend into the scene instead of being placed on top of them. During the thunderstorm, the visibility drops even further, creating a much more immersive environment. Now, the clouds, rain, thunder, and lightning all feel like they're a part of the same scene. But of course, in this example, lightning doesn't flash at 120x. Back to sunny skies, and we return to a soft haze in the atmosphere. When the snow moves in, there's a similar but slightly different effect to help with immersion. This looks better in the winter, of course, when there's snow on the ground, but you get the idea. Finally, we're back to clear skies and back to the normal baseline I've created for sunny days. Okay, so I'm going to end the video with a side-by-side comparison. You guys be the judge. Let me know in the comments what you think or if you have any ideas. Otherwise, thanks for watching, take care, and happy farming.